What's going on, y'all? This is BoxingWave. Sergey Kovalev might be fighting not Adonis Stevenson. That's who he should be fighting, but he might be fighting John Pascal, which is a fight that is a really good fight. You know, these are the guys that you're supposed to. This is what I talk about. Eliminated all the competition. You know, Sergey Kovalev, he's trying to get everybody out there. He's just trying to clear out the division in a short period of time. And I respect him for it. You know, he's trying to get them all out of there. Let's get them all out of there, you know. I respect this fight because John Pascal is one of the top fighters in the division. Gave two great fights. Had two great fights with Bernard Hopkins. He even dropped Bernard Hopkins, I think, twice in their fight, in their first fight, or three times. I can't remember the first and second fight, but two great fights. He's been in there with Frach. He's been in there with Boutte. Okay, that was his last fight. Very respectable opponent in the division. Okay, he's been in there with he gave Chad Dawson his first loss, so this is a great fight. One of the fighters that Kovalev should be fighting. Okay, the Adonis Stevenson fight, you know, it's crazy how there's a turn of events here, because just last year Adonis Stevenson was the fighter of the year. You know, he had 4 fights. You know, he was knocking out all these guys. Knocked out Bellew. He knocked out Chad Dawson. He was the man, you know, he's on top of the world. And as soon as he bounced from HBO, it's like everything just crumbled, okay? He had a fight with Fonfara, which was supposed to be a fight that, you know, it was his first fight on Showtime. He just showcases his talent, and he gets in there and he had a war, you know, with Fonfara. And shout out to Fonfara, but not for nothing, Stevenson was supposed to win that fight easy, okay? The guy just kept coming, and, you know, he eventually dropped Stevenson. And it's like, now, this is what I mean about, you gotta gain you gotta, before you become famous and making all these big fights, try to get these big fights and pay-per-view fights, you gotta gain the respect from the boxers, fans. You gotta do that. You know, the boxing fans come first, the die-hard fans come first. All these other casual fans, they come later. You know, there's gonna be fans that's just gonna you know, show you respect, and they're gonna be, you know, by your side just because you're from where they're from, or, you know, whatever. You knocked out a couple of guys, they're gonna like your fights, but as soon as you lose, they're gonna disappear. You gotta get the respect, gain the respect from the hardcore fans. The hardcore fans wanted the Kovalev fight for a long time now. You jumped ship, left from HBO. You know, he was winning fights back then on the same card with Kovalev. Kovalev's calling you out, and then you calling out guys like Julio Cesar Chavez and Carl Frach, you know, guys that people don't have any interest in seeing you fight, okay? No one has any interest in seeing you fight those guys. But Kovalev, the guy that's right there in your face, you didn't fight, you know, and now Kovalev is the man. He's the one that beat Bernard Hopkins, got the fight before you did, okay? You beat him. Now, if you beat Bernard Hopkins, it's not as much, the value isn't there, because Bernard Hopkins has lost now. You know, he's not, he doesn't have a shot at being the unified lineal champ, you know, the undisputed champ. You know, that's done. He got destroyed by Kovalev. So now, if you face Hopkins, no one's going to care. You know, no one is going to care about what you do unless you fight Kovalev and beat him. You know, no one cares anymore. You know, now that it happened, it's like, yeah, you fighting him now because you got no choice. So, you know, Kovalev is the man, man. I mean, he's definitely top 10 pound for pound in my opinion. I think he should be put up there. He's fighting John Pascal, a tough fight. You know, if this was a few months ago, I really don't know who I would think would win that fight. You know, I think that would be a fight that is very extremely debatable. Even if you were to pick John Pascal, it would be, you know, I would respect it. You know, I might even have gone for Pascal. I don't know. You know, it's a close fight. But now it's like, you know, Kovalev, now that he shows some technique in there, some game, some good boxing ability. I mean, he's shown it before, but he hasn't fought a guy on that level. And you just didn't know, because he, you know, certain fights he seemed to be reckless, because he was just usually trying to knock guys out and get them out of there quick. When he fought Hopkins, he took a different approach to it. You know, he was a lot smarter in that fight. And I mean, now we see his actual skill set. So now it's like, man, he's fighting John Pascal. I don't know, John Pascal better be ready for that kid, because that kid is going to go 12 rounds. John Pascal is a good boxer, but he's proven to have some bad stamina issues later, halfway through the fight. You know, his stamina is not up to game. They goes past 6 rounds. I don't know. I think the fight could be competitive early on. I don't believe John Pascal. John Pascal has taken some losses. He's lost to Hopkins. I know he lost to Hopkins, lost to Froch back in the day. But I don't think he's ever been knocked out. All right, I don't think he got knocked out in Froch. I can't remember. I didn't see that fight in a long time. But correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Pascal has ever been knocked out. Okay, you know, Kovalev. If Kovalev goes and knock, if he goes in there and knock out Pascal, that would be big. It'll be big. You know. So it's looking shady. It's looking shaky for Adonis Stevenson. But there's not too many options left for Kovalev. You know, if Kovalev goes and beat this guy and then fight Adonis Stevenson, if he goes to beat the both of them, if he beats the both of them, it's not going to be too many options available. You know, Adonis Stevenson, I don't think he's going to be fighting for too long. So win or lose to him, I'm sure Stevenson's going to retire now shortly after that, because there's not too many fights that could be made for him, and he's up there in age. But anyway, I love the fight, man. I love what Kovalev is doing, man. I mean, he's one of those guys, and they're supposed to be fighting out in Canada. So Kovalev is going to other people's homes and taking them out. All right, so I love what he's doing, and this should be a good fight, you know, because Pascal is a guy he got skills. You know, he's not old like Hopkins, and he has skills. He's a guy that it's very debatable who will win the fight between him and Adonis Stevenson. Okay, he has very respectable power, and he has a good skill set. All right, he's being trained by Roy Jones now, and he looked pretty good against Lucien Bute. All right, he won very convincingly in that fight. So anyway, just wanted to put the news out there. I'm not going to talk about it, to see if Pascal gets past this fight this weekend, and that fight should be on in March. All right, so make sure you subscribe and look out for the next video. Peace.